This is it. WoW's next expansion leaked. Jeez, dude. Thank you again, man.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. So, proceed with caution. Today we're going to cover a BlizzCon 2019 leak that does indeed originate from the Blizzard Gear store.
Good.
And while we don't know exactly what the next expansion is like literally going to be, a key plot element from it has actually been spoiled. So that means if you wanted to do like a spoiler-free BlizzCon viewing party with your friends, you might want to tune off this episode. But if you've already seen the leaks and you want some lore speculation, then I think we're going to have a great time today. Of course, final reminder with our Patreon, the big master tier this month with 5 physical items and shipping included, that ends in like 2 days. So last chance to get that, and of course it's a massive help for our team, and it's actually allowed us to bring on our new video editor who will be starting next Monday, which is hype as hell. Okay, with that, let's get into the speculation. So a key part of 9.0's expansion reveal has been leaked through the Blizzard Gear store. Why? Well, it's actually down to their store architecture. So one of the new BlizzCon items, right, is a fine art print of Onyxia. You can go and see it now.
That's
rather
awesome.
incredibly though, the hash for the Onyxia print and the leaked print are the same. So basically, after swapping Onyxia for Boolvar in the URL, you're taken to this. Then later on, an MMO champion poster who actually works at the same store backend, they were able to get a high-res version of the image, which is the one we're using now. And while people have since tried Nuzala, Shadowlands, and other things, Boolvar is the only one that actually worked. Blizzard have, of course, since taken that all down, but
that's
the information
the big boy
is
right
clearly
there.
out there. And of course, an Overwatch image was also later found via the same means. Now, you may have already also seen this image for World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Now, this appears to be a sort of like a convention leaflet, the type would be handed around that you see around a con's merch store. Now, it's not a verified image. Right now, it just looks really good, but it's not confirmed as a real leak. John, our graphic designer and the man behind many of the thumbnails in the last few months, he did a breakdown of the logo that's really good, and he basically just found that, yeah, it's very, very high effort at the very least. So, to be honest with you here, right, this Boolvar image, it's not that surprising, okay? Blizzard have been building up to this for literally years, even going so far as to build out the Arthas Lich King's world-preserving motivations in Chronicle. Yeah, Arthas literally did not unleash the full scourge upon us, and even Metzen, way back in the day, asked us to wonder why he didn't, so that's an interesting tidbit. But okay, let's get into the image. So this is clearly from a major cinematic. That's, I mean, that's right in line with how BFA was revealed in 2017, and for that, I'm really excited. Now, we see Boolvar. He's finally finished melding. He is standing strong, shoulders back, looking like a badass with his new hammer. So, him actually moving and getting up, that's significant. It means he's clearly melded with the Helm of Domination, and more on that helm soon. So, we see he's also got his new hammer, and we see that the hammer is not inscribed with the Nathrazim runes of Frostmourne. And yes, Blizzard did confirm in Chronicle that the Lich King's armor and blade were forged by the Nathrazim. Now, this hammer clearly is not all, though, because you can see that it contains the same ever-burning dragon fire that cleansed Boolvar. And I've got to wonder if he's paid the red dragons a visit and claimed some of their power. After all, he does encourage you to kill red dragons in Legion's patch 7.2 Order Hall campaign, and, you know, he comments on how he's cold and feels nothing. Now, what's really grabbed people about this is the helm itself, because when it first goes on Boolvar, right, it glowed red along with the rest of him. And then also, as I think called to attention in a recent video, right as the helm is going down on his head, it plays Yogg-Saron's theme, which is, I mean, a bit in the nose, but that's something to keep in mind. Now, I actually look back at the old cinematics, and when it first went on Arthas, it glowed blue, its usual color. And, I mean, there's multiple reads on this. We don't know that much right now. I mean, first, when he took up the helm, Boolvar was really powerful, but by the time he gets up off the throne, well, he may have melded more with the Lich King persona, whatever's lingering in the helm. Now, it's true that his eyes were red when we visited him during BFA, so, I mean, it's still an odd one. I think it's an intentional change, though. It's clearly going to represent something major. I think it'll be a decent...
Dude, he looks fucking badass, man. He looks fucking badass, man. Like, I like kind of the more, you know, the more, like, primal badass Lich King like this. I mean, the fire and everything... Can anything beat, like, the full plate armor with Frostmourne, with, you know, what's his name, with Arthas? It's hard to say, but I feel like this does look really fucking cool. This does definitely feel like the next Lich King.
major event. I doubt it's just a random aesthetic change the Blizzard are not going to deal with in the narrative. It's also possible that we should worry about this color change. So in Legion, right, when we meet the echoes of Arthas and Ner'zhul and we fight them, they're aware of us, especially Ner'zhul. And when we defeat Arthas, Ner'zhul laments that we disrupted his plans. Now, Ner'zhul was mentally shredded by Arthas in the helm, but he wasn't destroyed, according to Chronicle. He was left a wailing sort of horror in the back of the helm, one that Arthas could easily drown out, but he's still clearly active. Now, Chronicle describes how the Light abandoned Boolvar as he became the Lich King, and how he struggled to maintain his sanity initially. Arthas didn't have that struggle. He put the helm on, he felt a rush of power, and he eventually dominated Ner'zhul's mind. So, that's another element. Now, additionally, we see memories of Arthas throughout Legion. Now, those memories, I mean, they appear to be warning us about something, about the new Lich King. So here's some quotes. You believe that you are in control, that your will is your own, yet you do as he commands. You exist by his whim alone. You imagine yourself to be free, but you will always be his instrument. So is the he actually Ner'zhul? Right? Was Ner'zhul more active than we thought? Could he have bided his time? I mean, he did really bide his time with Kil'jaeden back in the original.
See, I thought whenever they were talking about that, I thought they were talking I assumed that Arthas was talking about Boolvar, the Lich King is Boolvar, and that you were just doing what Boolvar is telling you and you're actually not in control. That's what made sense to me. Yeah, me too. That's what I thought. I mean, I feel like this might be a stretch, but yeah, that makes much more sense than what Bellular is saying. But this is a minor thing, and it could just be my interpretation of it too.
Original Warcraft 3 storyline. I mean, if that was what the memories of Arthas were warning us about, then I've got to wonder if the Lich King used us to purge the blades of, like, Ner'zhul and Arthas at the start of the Legion expansion when we take up the Twin Blades. So that could happen. Right, so basically, a lot of Helm-related spook. Now, as for the rest of the image, well, he's shot dominantly. His shoulders are back, his chest is puffed out, he's looking down at the camera. I've got to wonder, like, is this him defending the Frozen Throne? It's kind of hard to work out exactly, like, where he is, though. I mean, one speculation is that, like, he could be sort of at the throne facing down Sylvanas. Maybe she's trying to claim the throne for herself. And, you know, she would know a great deal about the Lich King's backstory and dealings and his powers through the Valkyr, who, of course, were in his service for years, so she'd know all about him. Now, if her goal is to master death, then the Shadowlands clearly are where she would want to focus. But that's not all, okay? So we also have this leaflet leak. Now, the logo looks really convincing. John did a, analysis, as I said, and it really does look pretty good. I would agree with that. And we see concept art of somewhere called Bastion, which is apparently the new expansion location, and then we hear about the Kyrian, who are a new race. Now, neither of these things are established in the lore, but as I've covered in recent videos on this channel, I mean, the Shadowlands are almost completely unestablished themselves, right? There's no Titan Pantheon member for death. There's no dragon aspect for death. There's no Titan Keeper for death, yet clearly there's so much more there than actually meets the eye. Now, this poster, right, it describes them as the noble Kyrians. Well, here's where I'd say to remember BFA, because Ayer told us that Vol'jin had been touched by the hand of Valor. Valor, noble. This could mean that Vol'jin is connected to the Kyrians. Now, we know that the person who was responsible for messing with his soul in the BFA era is different from the one who suggested that Sylvanas be the war chief, so if that leak is true, then Vol'jin could actually act as our narrative bridge. Now, one thing I will say is that the art of Bastion there is, wow, it's gorgeous. I really like it. If that's indicative of the general aesthetic and color palette, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. It looks really, really great. I mean, there's bits of it that kind of remind me of like a sort of a twist in a Greek underworld, which is kind of cool. And, it's sort of interesting, right? Ian Hazzikostas, of course, right? Like originally the family hails from Greece, and there was a Q&A, right, that he was doing, like a Greek Q&A. Yeah. Not many people saw it, but he was talking about...
We watched that.
Basically a place called Zero, it sounds like Zeros, and there was one of the Shadowlands leaks had a place called Zeros, and that was something that people kind of, drew a bit of a line between. But I love that aesthetic, and if Blizzard do go there, that'd be kind of cool. There's other reads, though. I mean, there's bits of it almost look like when, a sort of a lighter, a more balanced version of like when Frodo puts the ring on. Just in general, I think it's a gorgeous color palette, and if that's some of what they're going for, I think we'd really be in for a treat. But still, that's the least confirmed thing here, so let's just get back to the narrative. So in Chronicle, right, Blizzard were really clear to give Arthas semi-noble motives as the Lich King. He essentially wanted to do what Sylvanas wants to do, to unite the entire planet in Undeath, and basically said he believed there'd be no more injustice or any of that stuff, and they'd be better able to stand against the existential threats that the planet would face. Now, this desire seems to be intact for Boolvar's Lich King. Now, we know that he's angry at Sylvanas for, like, upsetting the balance between life and death. Then we're also told that Boolvar has actually seen many different visions from the Helm. And in patch 7.2, he told the Death Lord that if they died, that he had plans for Arcturus. And then he also, you know, tried to get, like, Tyrion raised up. So, I mean, he seems like a more neutral, pragmatic character who's thinking bigger picture. I mean, I hope they just don't do a repeat of Rathian's plotline. Then the other element, of course, is, like, Talia, right, who's Boolvar's daughter. Now, I've seen speculation that Calia Menethil is the mother there, but that's kind of unconfirmed. Still, she's clearly going to play a role here at some point, likely, you know, sort of tempering the coldness
DK Quest was
as
awesome.
the new Lich King. And then, of course, there is all the Calia plotline, which would come in with the Lich King. Of course, I mean, I've got to imagine that Boolvar and Calia would have at the very least known each other. Of course, Calia is also the sister of Boolvar's predecessor. There's just so many ties there. Jaina would also be involved, like knowing those characters and dating Arthas, so you could really see how they'd pull all of those elements in. And then just in general, in terms of things that they could explore with this expansion theme, right? I mean, if Vol'jin was touched by the Hand of Valor, there's that Kyrian stuff that could also touch a little bit on the Titans, right? So Blizzard, I mean, they've been trying to make us question the Titans, just, you know, throwing in little hints here and there. Now,
I don't know if they did that a whole lot, like questioning the Titans. I think, like, yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Algalon and re-originating the planet. I'm not a big one into thinking the Titans are like bad guys or whatever, but I could see if they want to go in that direction, that's fine with me. I'm not really against it. Yeah, I know Pyromancer really feels that way. I'm aware.
Most of that came from the Void, so we've thought, like, well, the Void's clearly evil, right? So we're obviously not going to listen to what they say about the Titans, who are clearly the good guys. But I mean, it's pretty obvious, right, that they're slipping in reasons to be suspicious about the Titans. Now, if, you know, life and death, the Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream, I mean, I speculated more about this in past videos, but if they are like fundamental parts of the universe, and there are Titans that have an affinity with fundamental parts of the universe, or, you know, of the different elements and things like that, I mean, it's really suspicious that there's not one for death. Is there a cover-up there? Is there something mysterious going on? I think it's very obvious that Blizzard could explore that a little bit more. There's also...
That actually makes a lot of sense, because, like, yeah, there's not a Titan for death. There's, like, Aenar, the Titan of life. Sargeras is, like, a Titan of war. Argus? Argus was death? Oh. Was Argus actually, like, the Titan of death, though? Argus was destruction, not death. I don't know, man. I don't remember that. I don't remember, like, all the dialogue about that. I don't remember that very well. What if Azeroth is dead? Oh, never know. He even had a scythe? Yeah, so do farmers. I don't think a scythe means that he's an avatar of death, but I can see what you're saying.
Elune. I have speculated about there being other sides to Elune since 2017, or was it early 2018? I think it was 2017. It was like very early on Legion anyway, but they could obviously bring so much of that into an expansion themed around this as well. I think what's really clear to me though is, I mean, it is them trying to establish more stuff, right? They have no RPG source material left, basically, and they just want to sow as many seeds as they can for future expansions. I mean, there's also the part of this that, like, it's just break glass in case of emergency V2, right? I mean, Warlords of Draenor, it's, I mean, man, the TikTok is so funny of World of Warcraft expansions. So Legion was not an Illidan expansion, but Illidan was the big thing that, oh, players, you know, oh, I recognize that, clap, 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 and then players go and actually play the expansion because Illidan gets them in. That's like totally what Illidan did for Legion, and that was coming off, you know, Warlords of Draenor being a big old mess. And people have joked about World of Warcraft having a TikTok in expansion quality, right? You know, one's really good, the other's not so good, then the other's really good. Yeah. So it's like Warlords of Draenor, and then they save that with Legion, and then it all goes downhill with BFA, and then they're like, ah, well, it's a good thing we have another plot element, you know, just encased in glass. We'll smash that open in case of emergency, get Boolvar back in.
That's the Lich King.
Suddenly all the WoW players are back.
Of course.
I mean, this is pretty much the last time they can do that. I don't think they can do that for Deathwing. I mean, there actually are some ways they could do that for Deathwing. I mean, I've even had an idea that they'll do that for Arthas, because
I don't know about that, dude.
Like, Arthas is still in the Void. Not the Void, the Oblivion, right? Wherever Sylvanas found herself. Arthas is floating around in there, like, massively tormented. But he is there. They could make Arthas come back if they really wanted to, okay? And, I mean, at the very least, it might be cheesy, but it would probably... People would probably think, that's really dumb, and then they'd probably pick up the game nearly instantly. I think that's how that would actually play out.
That's true.
But overall, I think you can see how this would bring people back in, and I think you can also see how it could be an interesting plot line, right? If they're bringing more of the shadow and the light and exploring the Shadowlands a bit more, having Boolvar be there as a character, that could be quite cool, especially because they're bringing in his family, and I actually think that stuff could work. As much as I'll be a little bit cynical about the whole break glass in case of emergency thing, overall, I think this is potentially quite good. I mean, if this is Blizzard going back to dealing with cosmic forces that are far greater than us, I would be really quite happy indeed. I do not think that Blizzard have been great at writing the super character-driven, almost... I mean, like trying to be Game of Thrones at times. I mean, Dave and Dan, or Dan and Dan, whatever the two of them are called. Game of Thrones anyway, not Martin Game of Thrones. But you get my point, right? That's what BFA kind of felt like for a lot of it. But if you even just track back to Legion, it was Blizzard doing dumb stuff, but it was cool, right? Blizzard are not Naughty Dog, okay? They're really not that great at writing. I mean, I do think Christy Golden can write a really great novel and explore the characters really well, and I think she does a wonderful job there. And some of their cinematics, like with Starfang, can actually do that really well too. But once you actually get into the game, I think what Blizzard does well is big, dumb stuff. Like, it was cool when Argus was casting, his cast bar was just about to end creation. That was cool. And then...
Yeah, it was badass. Like, I mean, obviously the Lich King being badass and everything, like, it's a lot easier for them to do that. Big, dumb stuff, I feel like once you start doing space travel, though, that's whenever I'm like, okay. Let's settle down. Let's relax, all right, guys? We don't need to do space travel. And, like, TBC, no. I'm not going to count TBC as an example of that, but there were people that felt that way about TBC, because TBC was like the Dark Portal. It wasn't really space travel. It was like kind of just a bridge between two different worlds, whereas like Argus, you actually flew, as far as I know, you flew over to Argus, and it opens up like TBC was literally sci-fi. Not as much as Argus was. Argus was much more sci-fi than TBC. Let's be real, okay? Yes, they were the same, but they were also different. That's the point I'm making, okay? Let's see. Zone back in, guys. I just cleared it. Okay, let's go.
Space Satan comes in and stabs the planet with a sword. That's big, dumb, cool, cheesy fun.
Yeah.
That's basically what Blizzard's identity is as storytellers, right? I don't think they were ever really doing super deep stuff. I mean, back in the days of Warcraft 3, it wasn't deep, but it was just a pretty good storyline with fun elements that you could follow pretty easily, and it had little bits of depth to it here and there that were really quite nice.
Yeah.
So if it's Blizzard just returning more to things on a cosmic scale and embracing how generally they do just sort of doofy big concepts that have gorgeous art, big music, big epic events.
Yep.
If they double down on that, I think that's where they're going to find a lot more success than them trying to do a novel in a video game in terms of their storytelling.
Well, it doesn't work because people don't give a fuck about the story. That's the issue, is because they don't have to care about the story. Like in these other games, you have all these cinematics, you have voice acting for all of this stuff. It's like you play Red Dead Redemption 2, or you play, like Witcher 3. I think, like, I never really played a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2. I have the game, I just never really played it. You play Witcher 3, everything's fucking voice acted. There's cinematics for all of it. You have to read things and figure it out yourself. So if you compare the amount of focus and the amount of the game that's built around reinforcing the story, and then you compare that to WoW, where the game is not built around reinforcing the story because you don't need to read the quest, you just go to the marker, you don't need to see what they're saying, you just click it and then you go to the next marker. And I feel like that's very, very different. I mean, like Witcher 3, the game is built around the story, and the story is the main character. And WoW, the gameplay is the main character, which I prefer, but at the same time, it doesn't make for a very good story. You can skip story in Witcher 3 too. It's, yeah, of course you can, but it's harder to do that. That's all I'm saying.
There's other people who can do that a bit better, like Naughty Dog, but, you know, that's just not really Blizzard's strength. And I also think that in terms of MMORPG storytelling, if the story's more focused on things that are so much bigger than the player, right, that are, you know, cosmic forces, that really are world building, right? The story is just the world building of Azeroth changing. I think that is a better place for an MMO to be, because it's all about the context, like basically the context of the world that people are adventuring in. And if we do see a return to storylines that are a bit more like that, which was, I think, whenever Legion was being a bit better, then I think it overall would be a good thing. So basically, that's my piece in this situation. Overall, I have a positive sentiment towards this, a very positive sentiment, because you know what, as much as, you know, I might love playing, playing a single player narrative text adventure, and I mean, that's what we're actually building ourselves here. There's a part of me that also just wants big, dumb Blizzard fun with big cinematics, big music, big events, you know, big, larger-than-life characters. If they're going back to that, I think actually it would just be a bit of fun, and it would probably be a welcome change of pace from Battle for Azeroth. Really, I don't think Blizzard should have went too much into doing genocides and things like that. I just don't think they're the storytellers to sort of do that well. Not saying they can't, but I don't really think
the game lends itself to telling those kinds of stories. That's my overall thoughts on this leak, where the plot could go, and a few of the things that jumped out to me. I would love to know, like, what do you think about this leak? Do you think this is good? Do you think it's bad? Just let me know down below. I think it'll be really exciting. And if you want to check out the cool physical loot, then hit up the Patreon. And with that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. All right, you know what? I like this a lot.